June is Audiobook Month. Join Viviana, the Enchantress of Books, and the Audiobook Lovin Series as she celebrates the authors and narrators who bring your favorite stories to life. Not only will this month be packed with exciting guest podcasts full of all things books, but stick around after each episode for some special information about this year's giveaway and more.
Welcome to Season 10, Episode 19 of the 2024 Audiobook Lovin Series. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with a voice actor, narrator, and the voice of the Audiobook Lovin Series, Mr. Stephen Dexter. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you very much, Enchantress.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
I'm glad. That's always a good thing to hear. Sometimes I wonder when y'all get my email, and you're like, oh, babe, not again. What else do you want to talk about? I'm like, there's so many things.
Nothing's changed.
Well, that's why I'm not talking about books right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I did. It's interesting. I'm like, you know what? You've been now the voice of the series for, I think this is like the second, if not the third year at this point. And I've gotten so many authors and listeners like, who's the dude that's talking at the beginning? I'm like, what dude? And I'm like, oh, you mean the intro? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's just Stephen Dexter. He's, give him your link and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, he's done these books. I'm like, yeah, bonus. He's actually a nice guy.
It's important.
It's so important. I'm picky about stuff like that. So yes, but we've done an interview before, a chat where, we go through the whole rigor mortis of, audiobook world and how do you do prepping and your voices and accents and stuff like that. So today we're just going to get to know you a little better.
Oh God.
Yes. Well,
you're going to find out I'm not such a nice guy.
Ha. I knew that. We're humans, but that's not, no, we're some fun little anecdotes here and there. But I kind of wanted to highlight the whole human aspect of audiobook with our 10th anniversary, which is why we're here, is because the way that you guys perform these books are on that emotional, level-headed, of us, of course. It's just great overall. So we're just here to chill and have some questions, and hopefully you still love and adore me afterwards. So if you're ready,
fire away.
All right. If someone was to summon you via a cauldron, not like I don't have a few of those, what 3 ingredients would they have to have in order for them to bring you forth?
So are you looking for like classic witch, like
no, like
ear of bat?
No, like favorite, like Skittles.
Okay.
Yeah,
So just aspects of my personality,
or something of you, like ooh, because there's that sub sandwich, right, or that one pizza kind, right?
Okay.
That you're like, oh, I have to, So
okay, that's nicer. I was gonna be like, oh, brain of dog.
No, how puppy? No. What kind of a girl do you think I am? No.
Right, let's see here. Yeah, I think sour Skittles would definitely get things cooking. Let's see. Classic films and and probably the sounds of a baby swearing.
Of a baby swearing.
Like a baby saying, or like a toddler saying bad words.
Okay.
I think that would probably I would probably be manifested.
Got it. It is adorable when those little creatures are starting to say something and they think it's the most important thing, and then they're like, fuck you. And you're trying not to react because you don't want to encourage it because they don't understand what that means yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that fun stuff.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
I remember when I kind of learned a whole galaxy of obscenities all at once. I think I was like, my mom tells this story. I really don't remember. I think I've mixed it up with other memories, but she said that I had been out playing with my friends in this, I grew up in in a condo complex in this small like industrial town in Connecticut. And so it was a lot of people, a lot of different ages, a lot of kids, which was amazing. Always a gold mine at Halloween with that many,
oh yeah,
neighbors. But I remember that the older kids used to hang out in the woods behind this hill. So it was a hill that we would use. We'd like ride our bikes down in the wintertime. We'd sled down it. But if you at the top there was this drop off, and behind that were all the like teenagers and older kids. That's just what we would say. And I remember that sometimes my friends and I would crouch down or like lie down on the ground and just watch them and just listen to them. And you'd see them, they'd be drinking beer or smoking cigarettes, or in this case, this one particular case, speaking another language to my young innocent ears, saying a lot of words that I didn't really understand, but I liked the way that they sounded. They were short, and they had these plosives, and they seemed to be getting a big reaction from other kids, and they just kept repeating them like over and over again. I was like, oh, so I think that's just how older kids talk. So there's the like the cadence and the tone and the way that they say the words, but then there's the words themselves, and I'd never heard these words before. And so I just absorbed all of them, and then I went home, and my mom, oh, how was your day, like what did you and Ryan, what were you guys up to? And I think I just immediately answered her question, but I included all a plethora of the profanity that I had learned, and I really, really shocked her. And she ended up sending me to my room. I didn't know why. And she said that she's like, just going back to what you were saying about where I cannot laugh. I cannot laugh at this child because I have to establish that like he can't say these words in polite company. I don't think she really punished me, but she sent me to my room, and she's like, Stephen, the time that I had that was the hardest to keep a straight face is when you were going up the stairs to your room. The blue streak of profanity that you let loose was incredible. And she said the most fascinating thing is like there was a part of me that was almost proud because you used the words correctly. You didn't use like, you're a hell, or, what the bitch. You use the
Right.
words as they are nouns, as they are adjectives, as they are verbs. You use them properly, even though it's really, really awful. And she's like, had it been me when I was growing up, had it been my mom, that would have been soap in the mouth. Life boy for 20 minutes. But she said, I was so shocked that you weren't mad until I sent you to your room and you didn't explain, and I didn't really explain why I was punishing you, why I was, sending you to your room to think about it. And um but that's one of those, like, I really, really wish that I remembered it as vividly as she does. She tells it great. And even like, I wish that it had been one of those, somebody had been recording it.
Right.
I would have
That would have
loved
been a
to have
lot
heard my
easier.
little voice.
Right. But that also would have been a lot more obvious as far as the recording because those machines of recording back in the days were not tiny.
Yeah, yeah. And we didn't have that kind of thing, but it's like of all the time, like
I
sometimes
know. Yeah.
my dad would, he used to like rent or borrow camcorders and stuff like that, because to own one, it was a lot of money. And so we never really knew when he was going to have it for a birthday party or, special occasion, a baseball game, basketball game. So I just think, like, imagine if I came home and he had the video camera and I just let loose, even if it was like, and as soon as I started swearing, he like cut it, turned it off, just to have that little bit would have been
Would have been interesting.
amazing, just for,
Yeah.
for posterity, for history's sake. Because it's really, really funny.
It's interesting when, the first time you're going, okay. Because as a parent, you want to make sure that they're not doing this, like you said, in polite company. My biggest thing is knowing what the words mean and how to use them properly in the sentence and things like that. And so when my niece got older and stuff, and I was not really monitoring my word choices
Hmm.
because the reality is that in school they probably spoke a lot worse than in any video games or movies or whatever that they may have seen or whatever. And the deal was that if she ever got called in or like a detention for cursing, I would take it with her. And I'm like, I will be there and sit there proudly, and I will. Thankfully did not, but that woman knows how to curse now properly in the right context
Good.
and in bilingual, so multiple
Oh,
languages.
wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fun too. That's
Yes.
fun. You
Hmm.
and how other languages, they're even better.
Oh yeah.
There's certain words that just they're either poetic or they just hit so much harder. But
It's always
yeah, I
good.
mean, I remember my teaching my friend, one of my best friends growing up, Joe, had a little brother named Chris who was significantly younger than him. I think maybe by maybe 10 years. So when we were in middle school, he was really little and Joe used to teach him swears, and it was like a parlor trick. Like he would say say a bad word, he'd like whisper it in Chris's ear, and then Chris in his sweet little innocent voice, no idea what he's saying, would say the word back. And we would just crack up and roll on the floor. And it's like you can't, but because then he sees that he's getting such a positive reaction, he keeps saying it,
Yes.
and then you have to say, obviously Joe's mom and dad were never home when when we did that, but it was like, you can't, don't ever say that around your mom and dad, but you can say it around us. In fact,
Yes.
please say it around us because,
It's a good laugh.
yeah, it's just
Ah,
boring.
the innocence of children
Hmm.
and the simplicity of being easily entertained.
Exactly. And everybody's laughing.
Yeah.
He's impressing, making the older kids laugh, making he doesn't really know
Yeah.
why,
But
but
yeah, no,
it was
it's
great.
all wholesome stuff. It's a rite of passage at this point in many
Exactly.
cases.
Yes.
So another doozy for you. Love languages. We all have them, and it's for me it's been fascinating to even discover that we have them not only with our significant other but with our friends, even with work. What are some of your love languages?
Um, you mean like like
Words of
gooey?
affirmation, quality time, gift giving, acts of service.
Oh, hmm,
Like
hmm.
nothing tells me you love me when you did the dishes without me having to see a damn thing.
I mean, I really like it goes both ways. I really like sometimes if my wife is feeling down about something, we're kind of going through a little bit of a rough patch right now with her job. She's kind of making a little bit of a shift, so there's been a lot of uncertainty and pep talks on both sides because obviously it affects both of us. And so giving those, you know, like kneeling or sitting in front of her and looking right into her eyes and like holding her hands or putting my hands on her knees, or like her legs, and just letting out all these amazing, like, yeah, like you like affirmations about where I'm not just telling her what I feel like she needs to hear or wants to hear, but I'm really just telling her truths that maybe she doesn't hear very often. I'm trying to be as honest with her as possible, and when it just really starts to flow and I really feel like it's affecting her and changing, if she's been crying or she's and makes her laugh, or makes her happy, because sometimes it's not always like fuck the system and fuck that person, like you got it's sometimes it's just like telling jokes about something, or
Oh yeah.
it's either it's self-deprecating or stuff like it, but really making her feel better. I really really like that feeling, but then I also really like it when we just look at each other and there are no words, where we don't need to say anything. She's leaving to go visit her mother this weekend, and so just before, and she left right as we began talking, and like just before we were both sitting on the couch, and I like reached out and put my hand on her arm, and she put her hand on my arm, and we just looked at each other and just like nodded and smiled, and it was just kind of like the when things are communicated without words, it can be so much stronger, so much more profound, especially with someone that you have such an incredible connection with. It's usually the pillow talk, non-talk
Well, yeah,
kind of
that's the
thing.
touch, the quality time,
Yeah, where you're just
yeah.
looking at each other, like lying in bed and stroking the person's hair or stuff like that. Like just sweet stuff like that. I'd say that's probably the one I love the most, but I also tease a lot. And that is is probably I mean, that's my even beginning like flirting. Like that's what I would do. It was like when I was single, it was like I'll tease and I'll try to establish early on what a strange sense of humor I have and see if the person knows that I'm just messing with them. Never anything cruel, never anything like, like mean or anything, but just I'll say something outlandish or irreverent with a straight face and see if they can tell that I'm just joking around. And if they play into it, if they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah," and it becomes like this game, that's flirtation to me. And so that's why it was always like those were relationships, people that I would typically want to pursue, if not romantically, then at least like, oh, okay, friends. Because it works with,
Oh
with
goodness.
men, and if it's platonic, like you
Oh
have this kind of
yeah.
like you say something about something, and it's so bizarre. It's such a bizarre opinion, and it's not your genuine, but you're
Oh,
just
that's
like, let
just
me
the
see how you
Steven
react to
move.
this. Yeah. So that's another thing
Okay.
that we do. I try to I try to keep that one to a minimum because it can get tiresome, I know, on her end, which you don't really realize it until you have to experience it as frequently as she does. So when you're on the receiving end of that, when you're trying to have a conversation with someone and they always are like playing a character, or they're making a I do, what does she call it? Manger. So
Manger.
manger is make believe anger.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like she'll do something, or she'll tell me something, like for example, like when she, a couple days ago told me she was going to go visit her mom this weekend. I would say, like, she's like, so I think I'm gonna go and visit my mom and see her show. Her mom's a drama teacher and a theater director, so I'm gonna go see her show this weekend. And I would say, you're not fucking going anywhere. Like I would just say stuff like that. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I don't care. I don't care. And I'll do stuff like that. I think that's the that's the like actor in me, like wanting this fake conflict. I want to see, so then she'll come back with like, I fucking do what I want. And it just becomes this like little scene, this little like flirtation. But again, you're not always in the mood for it. Sometimes you just want to tell somebody what you're doing, or you want to ask them a question, and you want a genuine reaction, or you want a genuine answer.
Yeah. Or you'll
Uh,
get the fine whatever
yeah,
from them.
yeah. Or they're just like, not now,
Not now.
not now. Yeah, like please, please.
Mm-mm.
Because there's sometimes if certain situations you never know what the person's mood is, and I'm not the best at uh judging correctly when I should and when I shouldn't do it. Because sometimes I think that if I do it, if she's in a bad mood and I do it, it'll make her laugh. It'll make her feel better. But nine times out of 10, it doesn't. And
No.
recently I was working with someone on a play who does the exact same thing. And I was like, oh, and I remember going home after like our first few weeks of like really intense rehearsals and saying to Sarah, I was like, so this is the way, so and so, like he does this thing, da da da. Is that what I do? And she's like, that is exactly what
Exactly.
you do. And I was like, oh my God, that's so annoying.
And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So she's what have I been telling you for the last 10 years? Yeah. So it's like,
Welcome to my world.
yeah, I realize, that I developed compassion over the last like, 6 months or so. Saying, okay, I really should, taper that and just
Mhm.
not do it maybe as much as I as I
Yeah,
used to.
I've learned to come up with code for some friends
Hmm.
and friends and significant others and stuff like that when that is a personality trait of their and a bit of their love language when
Hmm.
I'm not in the mood for it or this is not the time, sir. So there's the kind of depending on the person, there will be some code where they get and they're like, oh yeah, no, never mind. I didn't say anything. They're
Yeah.
like, I got the pizza in the oven, honey. Like, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, just
Yeah.
straight information.
Well, yeah, there's a time and place, and sometimes it just isn't it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what is one thing that will get on your nerves immediately?
Um, hmm. There's two things that came into my head simultaneously. Uh, Littering, either walking around and people dropping garbage on the ground or throwing stuff out of the window of their car.
Oh, yeah.
That drives me insane, especially cigarette butts. Unless you, I think, live in a, I mean, it can happen anywhere really in any public setting, but I feel like New Yorkers, specifically New Yorkers, who use the subway, or any public transit, pretty regularly, encounter it more, and that's clipping fingernails
Ew.
or toenails on the train, on the subway, or on the bus. That that drives me insane. Those are the two things that, yeah, like it just immediately goes to my, people do things that I don't understand or I don't agree with, and I immediately I run it through my, the processors of like, well, what are the, the committee inside my head, and say like, okay, listen up, everybody. Okay, you just saw what we saw. I want 10 possibilities of why they would do that. Why they, and a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, that's a good one. I didn't. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to get annoyed. I'm not going to get mad. This is all like this instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two things that I
Doesn't matter what the
have
committee
yet.
says.
Yeah, or they're like, we're at a loss. I don't know why, because none of them are. You don't have to do any of those things. You don't have to, like, in this day and age. So yeah, those are two things that really, really annoy me.
Yeah. What is the one thing that never fails to make you feel better?
Jeez, I think it's been a while since I don't know, the first thing I thought of was when it goes back to babies. When a random baby or child smiles at me. Again, this is something that I encountered a lot more when I rode the subway regularly, and it was just very, very stressful. It was, I was going to drama school, and then I had like this day job and weekend job, and it was just really, really, and in New York City in general, especially in the a career in the arts and the industry and everything. It's there's so much rejection, and there's a lot of sadness and stress. But I remember, like, just sitting on the subway, and then all of a sudden, someone would push a carriage in with a little baby, and they'd be right in front of me, and they would be staring, and without me even having to like make faces at them or really try to elicit any kind of reaction, if they smiled, or sometimes just that look, that knowing look of that very disarming kind of stare that babies have when it makes, when it seems like that, that theory that they have universal knowledge, but it all goes away once they learn to talk. I feel like that was in that Baby Geniuses movie, which was it was a dumb movie, but that theory, I was like, that sounds
Well,
pretty
they've
legit.
done tests where the high Q for genius is the largest at amount as they're the younger they are. And as they
Yeah,
start going to school, things we are taught takes that genius stuff away because the
yeah,
creativity is taken away. But children and babies and toddlers and stuff, they have a sense of when someone's good or when someone's not good.
yeah.
And when you have positive energy, they also gravitate towards that.
Hmm.
And so when they see you, when they see you and they're smiling, they're like, "Oh, I know you, you're good."
Yeah. Yeah,
They
that's
do have it.
something that makes me feel good.
Mhm.
And random acts of kindness sometimes, where it's not for cameras, it's not for any kind, it's just, it's little things. especially again, it's because it's a whole other, it's its own little universe is New York City. And so and you see a lot of negativity and bitterness and anger and ugliness, but you also see a lot of beautiful things. And so sometimes when you see people helping someone carry, an older lady having her bags carried up the stairs or down the stairs, or um there's just these really, really nice things. And then that's it. It's not, for any kind of clicks or views. It's not, nobody's filming it. It's just like, no, this is just the right thing to do right now for this person. And then, and then just like, you okay? You're good for, yep, thank you so much. And then you're on with your day. Yeah, those are just nice things that are like, they give you like that charge of energy that lasts until you see somebody litter or clip their toenails on the subway.
Yeah, but that's also when you hope that you see a doggy or a kitty, or something like that to just even things out
Exactly.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, puppy makes
Yeah.
everything better.
But it's like with stuff like that with dogs, it's almost like you're not, and all dogs are different, but it's almost
Yes.
like expected. You assume that if you are nice and you're slow and careful, that a dog will kiss you and they'll let but with a baby, with a child, with things like that, they're under no obligation. There's nothing that I could, they don't know who I am. And so when that happens, it's almost like it's a special sign from the universe that like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all right.
Yeah. Oh, kids are great that way.
Hmm.
And that's also, a survival instinct on their part. It makes you want to have them. And then you remember, oh, that's
Hmm.
right, when they roll their eyes at you or they go, I'm not going to do that now. I'm like, go away, go to your room.
Yeah. Hmm.
Who would narrate an audiobook memoir about your life?
Oh my God. Um, that's a good question.
Thanks.
Geez. I don't know. I don't know. Jim Carrey would be fun. Um, I think that would be a pretty cool take, and somebody that I was like one of my first heroes when I was little. Yeah, I really don't know. I've never thought about that. Um,
Yeah, it's figured it'd be interesting considering y'all are also audiobook narrators. Uh, who
yeah,
would
I
you
mean,
do it?
like obviously, yeah, like it would be fun to do it myself, but to have somebody else do it, I really don't
Mm,
know.
okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, no, it's good. It's okay. It's
Yeah, I
marked for
guess
the
just
next
because
time.
my life up to this point, I don't, maybe if I live another 40, 50 years, ask me again.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get right on here
Ask
when we're
ask me
celebrating what,
again
their
then.
60th anniversary of the
Yeah,
podcast of the
we're both
series.
90.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Thanks, Seven. Now, do you have an answer, sir?
Yeah.
What's a hobby that you have always wanted to pick up?
If it counts as a hobby, there are a number of instruments I would love to learn how to play. I'm basic, like very rudimentary when it comes to playing the acoustic guitar. I was much, much better when I was in college because I was in a band then, so I kind of played rhythm on a few times, and we would write our own stuff. So I played more then, but I would love to learn how to play the piano, the harmonica, and oddly enough, I think the harp.
Okay.
There's something about that instrument that is it immediately it goes right to my soul. It's like there's certain instruments that it depends on the song, it depends on what you do with it. But then there are other instruments that it's like no matter what you're playing, it evokes a certain kind of emotion in me like every single time. It's like a cello really makes me sad or just I don't know, it really makes me contemplative when I hear that. That's probably one of my favorite instruments. A banjo, I don't know how you could ever be sad. listening to banjo. It's just there's no sad music on a banjo. And a harp, there's just something so magical about it that, yeah, that I don't know, to be able to produce that and have that kind of, and it just looks so wonderful and so magical watching harpists, watching people play. That uh I also wish I were better with cars. I think automotive maintenance, and I always really, really admired people that could repair things and even, like build things and design motorcycles or cars, or, there's all these videos about, you know, this dad or this mom built a go-kart for their child that's, that's paralyzed from the waist down or something. Like they do these amazing things, or to help with their grandma, their mother who can't walk anymore. Like I guess that kind of like technical, like engineering type of thing. Again, like going back to my really good friend Joe in high school, his dad had this like 1971 or two, maybe even late 60s Cutlass. It was like this really badass muscle car, and it was almost like Tim Allen in Home Improvement, how he was constantly like throughout the series was working on that big hot rod and like restoring it and that. And so Joe's dad was doing that to this body. And so every time we would go over, his dad had this really big garage, and we would peek in if he didn't, if his dad didn't mind, and if he was there, and we would watch him, and we would see the progress of this, especially because he told Joe that once it's finished, he's going to give it to him.
Mm.
I don't know. I think Joe's dad was gonna, own it for a while first after all that work, but then eventually it would, Joe would inherit it, but it just was gonna be like such an amazing car. And so just to watch him do that stuff that just seems so complicated, but like every day he was out there after work and he really loved doing it. My wife's father is that way with motorcycles. And my brother-in-law is a lot like that. They're so savvy when it comes to that sort of thing, that I wish that I had like, I wish I knew how to do more than change a tire and check my oil, replace spark plugs and windshield wiper fluid.
I know it's those little things. Yeah, I mean, I have a thing like, why didn't I take wood shop when I was in high school? I should have taken that,
Yeah, yeah.
because I love the idea. But one of these days, I'll have my garage organized and hopefully get some stuff in there to start making, cabins and things like that. But no, those are great. The music stuff is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah.
and I only say that because like it's just recently I've thought about that. I think because because recently I was having some car issues, and I was just like, oh, I wish it wasn't such a big deal to have this diagnosed. I wish I didn't feel so helpless.
Well, I'm a firm
Um,
believer that we, like in high school, they should teach you how to change a tire, check your
yeah,
oil, change your oil, those very basic stuff that, like balance a checkbook,
yeah, yeah.
and
We
things
did
like
have a little,
that.
yeah, I did have, I remember having classes in finances. Um, I do remember that. That was from formal education, but no, all the automotive stuff. I definitely think there were, especially in high school, there were automotive classes. I think they were like electives. Um, but no, but it would be amazing if that were like a mandatory,
Right? That and how to make
because
yourself
it's,
breakfast.
yeah, yeah,
The basic stuff. Just
yeah,
so that you don't burn toast. Uh,
yes.
One day, maybe they'll get that stuff, especially with the way
Hmm.
things are technology nowadays. I'm like, they're gonna have to figure that out sooner or later because you
Yeah.
can't plug and play anymore. When do you feel the most free?
Um, I think when I'm laughing really, really hard. I think when uh it's with family, or it's with friends, or it's with my wife, and I'm just overcome with laughter. I think there's something that it can eventually get painful if you can't, if you can't breathe,
Oh yeah.
and your muscles, tense up and things like that. But there's like this. I feel like there's like this impenetrable force that is just created, and in that moment, no matter what you may have been, or may have been worried about or stressing out over just minutes before, it can't get through. Especially I think if for some reason it happens when I am particularly stressed out or anxious about something, because a lot of times you're not in the mood for funny things and stuff like that. So when something really, really, makes me laugh, if when I'm feeling down, that's like a real, you know, if I feel like I've been, I'm deep down in inky black, mucky, muddy water, and I can't see any light, and then the laughter, it really, really pushes me up and out and gives me that glimpse of like, oh, okay, this is, yeah, yeah, I can, it's not that far away. I know I'm still here. If I'm still able to laugh like this. Yeah.
Yeah, that when that's a good laugh, it burns calories, and it
Mm-hmm.
gives you endorphins. You kind of sometimes even have that moment of like, okay, well, what I was worrying and fretting about, it was actually not that bad. I'm just in my head too much.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah. And it creates a memory. Like there's still moments that, with my family, years and years later that we remember because of just how hard we
laughing.
laughed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are good times. Yeah, especially when someone out of the blue, you're hanging out and then one starts laughing and you're like, what are you laughing about? And they're like, no, don't worry about it. And then they start continue. I'm like, no, seriously, what are you laughing about? And then they tell you that it was that one time that you almost pissed your pants because you were laughing so hard. They can't remember the why or anything. It was just the you laughing was what, that moment and stuff like that. So it's always fun
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
It's things that yeah, or they
Hmm.
or bring up things that by the time they get out what the hell it is, it's really
Yeah.
not that funny, but
Funny.
just the fact that they think it's so,
Oh yeah. When someone's having a good laugh, it becomes contagious sometimes. You're like,
Yeah,
we have no idea
exactly.
why we're laughing, but it's funny.
I remember one time when I came home, or no, I was already home. I was downstairs in my house when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10, and I think my mom and my sister were watching a Goofy movie in the living room, and I heard my mom laughing, and I knew that that's what they were watching, and but I heard my mom laughing really, really hard, and I was like, what the? There's no way that that movie my mom would think it's that funny. Haley might. I think it's fun, but she was laughing really. And I thought maybe I don't think my dad was home. I thought maybe that, he had come home and he was making her laugh, or he was tickling her, or like, I don't know, something. Or he was wearing funny clothes or something. And I went upstairs and they were watching the scene. I don't know if you've seen it, but they go to this like possum park. It's like a, country bear jamboree type, really, really cheap roadside attraction. And there are these possums, animatronic possums that are singing, and they have these, like, they look like roadkill, like dead possum hats, and their paws, their little claw hands are like sticking out. And my
Oh,
mom was losing it over their hands. Literally, and I was like, Mom, what do you laugh? Is it what? And he's like, no, the hands. And I remember, this is when I'm starting to get, I'm like, and Haley's like, I don't know what she's talking about, Steven. She's like, look at the little hands on the possum sticking.
oh,
And it was one of the like moments that I heard my mom laugh a lot and laugh hard a lot, but that's one that sticks out because I was like, I have no idea. The watching her was funnier than whatever it was that was making her react that way. Yeah, but that's another one of those like memories where you're like, yeah, there are funnier things in that movie. There are funnier things in that scene, but for some reason, all I remember is my mom laughing about the little possum hands. I don't know.
yeah. And those are, when they happen, you have to hold on to those because
Exactly.
yeah, it's just one of
You
those.
wish like, I wish this could last forever. I know it won't, but you hold on to that memory. And then you revisit it. And a lot of times, Yeah, like you were saying, like it starts again. You're like, yeah, that was, what the hell were we laughing at?
Yeah. And you'll see a little possum hand somewhere else. You're like,
Hmm.
that time the mom, you know.
Just say to mom, possum hands.
Yeah.
Oh,
What is something you think people might automatically assume when they first meet you?
uh, they might think that I'm an asshole. They might think that I'm uh pretentious. I think that I've heard that before, that sometimes uh that comes out, but it's usually because I'm shy. I'm not, but I am. It's a weird kind of dichotomy of like I'm shy, I'm awkward in social situations, especially like big parties and stuff like that. So I kind of go quiet for a little while. But then I try to, what I've found is that has helped with that is to just kind of what I call like leapfrog it. I overcompensate, and sometimes I can come across as like I'm talking too much. I'm blabbing, or I get hooked on a subject, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about, and I just start, like running with it and talk, I sometimes worry that I can monopolize a conversation, and so sometimes I think people who don't know me, it can come across as like if I'm not talking, it's that I'm judging, or I would rather be anywhere else in the world than in this situation with these people. Or if I'm talking too much, then I'm just some, pretentious know-it-all. But it's really not the case. It's a compensate. I don't want to just be quiet. I don't just want to sit back, because then I will retreat into that insecure, like, yeah, well, because nobody's interested in you. Nobody, and then all the predatory birds and the crows and everything will start flying around in my head and attacking me with all these negative thoughts. So I kind of just kind of barrel right through sometimes, and I'm like, well, I'll be um the center of attention. I'll kind of hold court at least for a little while, and then once I feel like, oh, okay, I've established myself as this in this situation, then I'll. But there have been times nobody has ever really said that, but I've kind of gleaned that. I've felt that sometimes, and again, it could just be, a byproduct of the insecurities of just like, people, Steven, shut the fuck up. Nobody's they don't they're not interested in what you have to say. You're talking too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that feeling. I understand it. It's definitely something that it's like trying to find that healthy balance of making sure that, that you're there in the moment and that you're paying attention, but that you're also, providing some, that it's a give and take. You're just not doing stuff. So I get it. It's hard sometimes, but that
Yeah.
perception of people, I'm like, no, listen, I'm just quiet. I'm not, and I get in my head. It's not that
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm more important than y'all or anything like that. I just like get me, just come say hi. I don't bite unless asked
Yeah.
to and stuff like that. So those little things. But yeah, I can see that. I have some friends too. I have one friend that I always have to say to him, I go, change your face. Um,
Hmm.
when we're in public
Hmm.
settings, and he's like, "Why? What's wrong?" I'm like, "You fake smile or something because you come across like you don't want to be here."
Yeah.
So there's something in the face, and he's like, "I can't change the face." I'm like, "Oh, well, we can work on that." Like, I'm not putting makeup on. I'm like, whatever. That's when I find something that makes him laugh, and then they become a little bit more approachable.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
things
That's
like
that's
that. Yeah.
that's usually what it takes. You find you I think there's a part of me that's searching for that common thread, that kernel where it's like, oh, okay, boom, there we go. You know about this, I know about this, or you like this, or you don't like this, and I don't like it either, and then you're kind of, then you're off. But when you're kind of in that, especially when you're dealing, if I'm going to like situations where it's a lot of artists and actors, so there's a lot of people that are very big, and can seem like they're performing, and it can be annoying, and it can seem, really put on, and it may be, but once you really get to know them on a one-on-one basis, you see that like, okay, they're not really like that. This is just something that they do because they get nervous.
Some are
And they
insecurities, stuff like that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the, the comedians that we see that that like always have to be on. They call like always 10. It's like just be yourself. Just because, and it's nerves. Or it's just what people expect of you. And if you're not that, then you're going to catch crap, or people are going to say, "Oh, they,
They're not
I
as
wanted."
funny.
Yeah, exactly. Like, "Oh, I thought he was funny." I thought
Hmm.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting balance, and I think we all have to look at it and figure out what it is. But I can relate.
Hmm.
So, what is one thing you would try if you knew you wouldn't fail?
Uh, um, like anything?
Yeah, anything.
Flying?
Like on your own, like you
Yeah.
yourself and nobody else, and sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I
okay,
think if I want to, yeah, go goofy with it, if I knew that if I went to the top of the, Empire State Building and jumped off, that I would be able to fly, I would probably do that.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, flying is good. I do that. Look at me, no pixie dust. Yay!
Yeah.
And of course, now the song is stuck in my head. I can fly. Anyways,
Exactly. I'd have to sing that. Yeah. You have to
yes.
think a happy thought.
Oh, that'd be like, okay, why am I? Where's that song coming from? Oh, he's flying again.
Oh yeah.
Now, one of the things, because you've been a guest before, we do
Hmm.
for the Patreon is that lovely game of Would You Rather, where I make you choose between two things, and I find it fascinating. But one of the question is, would you rather tell everyone your guilty pleasures or never partake in those guilty pleasures ever again? And I want to say that 99.99999% of y'all have always said, "Oh yeah, I'll tell everybody about my guilty pleasures, of course." Because why not
Hmm.
partake in them? And then we kind of go to the next question, never really diving into it. And a couple of times I've been asked, or it's come up about like, well, don't you? And I'm like, no, we'll have that conversation when you come back, and we'll talk
Hmm.
about what those guilty pleasures are. And most of the time I have never brought that back up again because fill in the blank reasons. But this time around, I'm like, yeah, no, we're going to talk about this.
Uh-uh.
Uh-huh. So what are some of your guilty pleasures?
Um, well, there's the usual. There's sour candy. There's sour and or fruity candy and popsicles. There's what could be considered childish television shows. I subscribe to Paramount Plus just so I can watch the old Nickelodeon TV shows, the old game shows and the old Nicktoons. I think it's really nothing all that scandalous. The only one that I wish I didn't do, and I go through phases where usually I don't, but then sometimes I do, and then it's like a week or two of every night. Is late at night going on my phone while I'm in bed and going on YouTube and finding disturbing videos about like, with serial killer confessions, or, top 10 worst things ever caught on live television. A lot of top 10 or a lot of like top whatever. And then it just totally fucks me up for sleep. And I have to stay up to either, then I have to read after that and cleanse my palate, or I have to watch a Nicola, I have to watch something totally innocuous and innocent and saccharine to just kind of get that out of my head, because I don't want to be going into my dreams with those images. But yeah, I think just avoiding but that's probably the only one that is like a real, I feel guilty, even though I don't really have anything to feel guilty about, but is yeah, so like what was the ones that I watched recently uh were, the 10 most disturbing things caught on Ring Cam. And like those were, so when you're lying in bed and it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock, And before you know it, because it's not just one video, and then YouTube will just keep recommending and recommending. You're like, oh, well, I've got to see this, and I've got to see that one, I got to see this one. And they seem so short, but then before you know it, it's 2 a.m. And my head is just full of all these, and then every little noise, because if it's somebody trying to break in, or it's some weird, somebody in a mask and a clown mask or something standing by somebody's, I'm like, that's what's waiting for me right outside my bedroom door. You get into that mindset like a little kid, like, well, I can't, I hope that I don't have to go to the bathroom because I don't want to go out there in the dark. Um,
Oh goodness.
so yeah, so I think
Yeah.
I think stuff like that. I think like, body cam footage of police when they catch a serial killer, like when, or the interrogation videos where somebody admits to doing something and tries to escape. I don't know, like courtroom brawls and stuff like that. It's all that. I'm really not one for the true crime. Every once in a while, one will come along where it's like, well, I knew about that if it's a historical, like there was the Netflix series about confessions, like the Ted Bundy tapes and John Gacy and the Night Stalker and like really infamous, acts of I just watched that Made in America, the OJ thing, which came
Oh
out
God.
a
Yeah.
while ago, but that ESPN did, which was, again, I was little when all that stuff happened, so I think it was right after he died, and so I don't really remember all that much, and to dive into it was fascinating. The stuff that I either didn't know or had completely forgotten. But so every once in a while, that's in my waking when I'm out, and I'll watch that on my television. But when it gets to be a problem is when I feel like there's been, a series of days where I get into bed and I tell myself, don't go on YouTube, don't go on your phone, put on an audiobook or put on, or read until you fall asleep, put on soft music. And I inevitably, break my rule and go on. And then but then I can't tell anybody, then Sarah, my wife doesn't want to know. I can't
See,
tell her that stuff.
See, while you're going into like the rain gang and stuff like that, which are things that potentially the likeliness of it happening in your house at this point in time or within the next 30 minutes of you watching that video, slight to none. I'm on
Mhm.
TikTok or on Instagram, and all of a sudden my videos are, all about the things that are moving without anybody touching them, or the doors that are
Oh
opening and
God.
closing
Oh
by
God. Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same
That's,
thing. I mean, TikTok's worse because they're shorter and you
yeah.
just in the scrolling, like,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
But then again, I get really proud of myself when they do some of those scare tactics or the jump scares, and I don't even flinch. And I'm going, wait, what
Yeah.
does that say about me? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's right. I've seen a ghost before. No big deal.
Yeah. You're totally desensitized
I'm like,
at this
whatever.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, leave me alone. Stop haunting me. So I get it. The other thing too that's happened in these 10 years has been that you guys go rogue on me and in some
Mm.
capacity or another, and you'll flip the script or try to flip the script and start asking me questions, and I'm like a dorky poo will bust out with start answering them. I'm like, wait a minute, it's not about me. So I've kind of decided to give you guys an opportunity to ask me anything. If you had a question, if you don't, gee darn, we can go forward. But if you did have a question, now is your time to ask it, and you'll get an honest answer from me. Go from there.
Okay. Viviana,
Mm-hmm.
Enchantress of Books. When would you say that you were the most proud of yourself?
Hmm. Well, there was that one time where,
Five of them at
yeah,
once.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one black eye, but you should see them. No, I'm just
Oh, God.
no. I think recently there was an event that I went to that I was, kind of like it was my first kind of going back into these kind of events, since about 3.5 years for
Uh-huh.
various reasons and stuff like that. And everyone survived. I didn't go to jail, and but I kind of saw the work that I had been doing and the positivity of the work. And sometimes there's moments where I'm like, no one's paying attention, or maybe my advice wasn't the best, or I feel bad because goals weren't achieved. And at this event I was able to see that my hard work has paid off in not only for myself but those of who I work with and help and friends and stuff like that. So it was just really nice to kind of see like a lot of the work that I've done in 15 plus years kind of all in one capacity or another kind of be in front and have it be all positive.
Oh, that's really great. That's really great. Were you on a panel?
No, actually, I
Or s-
went to an event as the assistant to a few author of mine that
Oh,
were
okay.
clients and things like that. And
Okay.
it was just one of those where, you have dialogues with you guys as narrators,
Yeah.
and things like that, and also with authors about marketing or book covers, and let's change some stuff up a little bit here and there, and to see an author that had felt not seen in her work have a
Hmm.
line at her table signing was fantastic.
Hmm. Hmm.
To see a huge poster of her book cover, up on a wall and have people be like, damn, that book looks good. And know that I was able to make that happen and help some of that stuff going. And, because sometimes in any kind of job, whether it's, in a booth by yourself with all the voices and accents in your heads, or on social media, sometimes you don't see, how good what you're doing can
Hmm.
be.
Hmm.
And so it was nice to be able to see that you're still relevant and that you're still loved and adored and that you are still, thought of as a subject matter expert and things like that, right? Because sometimes other people get in your head. And sometimes when things happened and you're going, maybe I'm like, what else do I need to do to reinvent myself and things like that? But it was just nice to just also be in that and just own me walking into a room and not give a flying fuck who was in it, And so I was like, I did that. And another time where I actually stood up for myself, I think was one of my proudest moments where I'm like, you know what, I know my worth, I know my value. It was a situation where the dialogue was not going well and they were just not understanding what was happening, and they felt, or they came across just really, they were just being an asshole, honestly. And I was like, you know what, I know my worth, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not going to allow you to belittle or gaslight me or anything otherwise. And so went on my merry way, and found that I was, a lot of other people were the same mindsets, and so that was nice too.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Those little
great.
moments.
Yeah. And it's hard.
It's
It's
hard.
hard to it's hard to acknowledge that. It's hard to like sit like you said with the at the event that you went to, like have that to be able to pause and realize those things about yourself if you are in kind of a negative, like we were saying, like in a negative place, and to be able to just stop and maybe not literally, but pat yourself on the back, and just say that would not have happened if not for me, or I didn't ask for this person to say what they said about what I've done. It's nice to get that kind of like, that acknowledgement. But then on the flip side, when you do feel like you're being, disrespected, to really be able to stand up for yourself and try and not make it incredibly personal, even if the, like take the high road, but also uh it's you never know what's going to come of this afterwards. Like, is this person going to retaliate? Is this, like, is it like all that stuff? But to be able to maintain your pride. And like you said, it's another one of those moments. It's a different situation, but where you're able to say, "Fuck, I'm proud of you." That that takes guts. It takes guts to acknowledge and have that awareness, and to be nice to yourself, and to feel good about yourself, and also to, crack the whip
Yeah.
when you need to.
Oh yeah. But I think we live in a world where sometimes we think that we have to do certain things in order to be, whether it's
Hmm.
be successful, be, to be able to get an audition, to be able to be recognized, to be able to, help others and things like that. And the reality is that if you are someone that has a skill set and you've done the work to earn and get those skill sets, it sometimes can be hard to not second guess yourself. I'm always been the girl that never thought she was enough. I always thought that I could be
Mm.
doing more. I've always thought I could,
Hmm.
I would. dim my lights in order for someone else to shine brighter. And I thought that that was what I was supposed to do. And in this past year and a half, I've entered what I affectionately and loving call my villain era. I don't give a flying fuck. In the sense, I am no longer dimming my lights. You can shine with me, and we will shine brighter and brightest together. Or you can go all the way over there and do your own thing, kind of a thing. Because it's not. I know my worth. And things like that. And so, and even sometimes even with this podcast, sometimes I have those moments of like, no one's listening, no one cares, Vivi, why are we still doing this? And at that event, I was tackling with I had one of those moments of like, no. I was talking to Emily Luzeller, who is I love her. She is fantastic, so talented and super sweet. And I'm actually going to see her again at Steamy Lit in a couple more weeks.
Nice.
But yeah, I had someone was standing to the right of me, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's you!" And I swore to God that they were talking about Emily because we were both talking, and I kind of paused because again, it's your show, so I want to make sure that you guys have that moment with fans. We can catch up later and go have a beer or whatever or coffee. And so I went, "Yeah, that's Emily," because sometimes we hear you, but we don't know what y'all look like, or you might be wearing something different. And they're like, "No, you." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I had a narrator moment when I was recognized for my voice, apparently, because she listens to the podcast. And I was like, oh my God. And so for me, that was a very surreal moment. And also to kind of have that, like I said, that like what it must feel like to you guys when you have a fan, a reader, kind of say, oh my God, it's you. And they recognize you by your talent, by your skill sets. So it was just nice. I was like, wait, me? Self-doubt pops in, imposter syndrome very loudly. And they're like, yeah, I love your podcast. I'm like, oh my God. So I had that moment. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. It was so sweet of them. And, I went off and let her hang out with Emily, but she came back a couple of times and we talked and it was just nice.
Yeah.
Kind of be like, yeah. So, but yeah, those are my moments.
Those are great. Those are really great. Keep going.
Thanks. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's just one of those things where we have to recognize our own, and I've seen the meme too about like stop being the nice person, but there's a difference between kindness and niceness. And so I'm learning that too. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, and I will help you hide the body. Just remember, I know how to hide a body.
Might be yours. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, but I'm I am so easy to please and so low maintenance. It's just one of those, like, if I don't like you or we have a problem, there's a reason for it. If Vivi has issues with anybody and me, they're like, damn, what the fuck did you do to piss her off? So it's just stuff like that. And I'm all about loyalty and honesty and communication. So if it's that bad, we're not in a good place. Yeah, you done fucked up. But yeah, so those are the things. But it's, again, you and I can talk for like hours on end here and have this be an entire mini series. Who knows? One day we'll have the Stephen Dexter, quarter episodes and stuff like that. Right?
Just a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different topic every day.
Right? Exactly. Just figure it out. But before we go, why don't you tell us what you're currently working on and what's coming up next for you?
So currently, well, independent, outside of the audiobook world, I'm writing my first feature-length screenplay.
Nice.
As part of I'm working with the Sundance Institute Screenwriting Collab program. So that's been going on since February. And it's been very difficult, but it's been rewarding. I was up writing at my sister and my brother-in-law just moved to Vermont from Connecticut late last year, and they have they had like an attic in their second level to their garage, and they made it into like a one-bedroom apartment. And so my sister said, when it's done, you can come, like you and Sarah, my wife can stay here, or if you ever want to come from work. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, please, as soon as it's done, let me know. And she did, and so I was up there a couple weeks ago, and it was weird, because I haven't seen her, so the temptation of like, because the main house is right up this little hill, the temptation of like not going up and just spending the whole day with my sister. Then my parents live only 15 minutes away, so it was difficult to kind of focus and say, no, I came up here to work, and they know that, and as long as I set the hours and stick to it and say like, okay, but by 6 o'clock I'm done, then I can go have dinner. I can go watch TV or a movie with Haley, my sister, and my brother-in-law, or I can go over to my parents. And it did end up working out that way, where I was able to get done what I wanted to get done, and I was able to spend a good chunk of time with them. So that felt good. Some audiobook stuff. I have a book called Luna, which is a part of the Baxter's Billionaires series by Daisy Allen that I did with Ella Tham that just dropped a little while ago. Kiss to Salvage, which is part of the Blairwood University series by Anna B. Doe that I did with Samantha Brentmore, is out. And Ruling Sickened, which is book 7 of the Kilkennian series, which is Just Me, by Victoria Abilene, has just dropped. I'm currently working on Ruinous, which is book 4, I think, in the Marked Mage series by Victoria Evers. And then I have 2 books by Jay Saman and Julie Weaver that are on the way. As well as When We Lied, which is a Claire Contreras, and then Hold Me Until Morning, which is an A.L. Jackson series. I think it's my first time working with her, and Aaron Mallon. We worked together, so that was a lot of fun.
Lots of goodies.
Yeah, so it's a good, and like you're like, it's very diverse. Ruling Sixth in the Kilkennian series, it's on an alien planet. So I got to really get crazy. Some romances, and then the Southern and the Boston billionaire and a hockey player. That's what's so great about this, is that it moves so quickly, and all the books are, they're all so different, that it really makes it enjoyable. And all the co-narrators, when I do those books, and the dual narrations, and all the authors are amazing. So
Yeah, I can't
I'm
wait. A
looking
lot of that
forward to
stuff
it.
is my jam. Like there's a
Oh,
heat
good.
nar, there's a hockey.
Yeah. Yep.
For a girl that does not really do sports, I do love reading them.
Yeah.
From
It's
football to
fun.
basketball to hockey and stuff. Just do not call me a puck bunny, because that's a derogatory term. I keep seeing it recently in some videos, and they were like claiming it. I'm like, yeah, no, honey, that's still a derogatory term. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
that comes up a lot. I friends of mine in college were big. They played college hockey, and I ended
Yeah.
up saying that. And I don't know. It was something. I mean, it's like groupie, but something about that particular term, I never really used it, and then I hadn't heard it in a really, really long time, because they moved on there. I think two of my friends are like teaching hockey now, but they both have families. They don't use that term anymore. But all these hockey books where I play a hockey player, it comes up. And it's almost more of like, it's still a stupid term, but it's almost like nostalgic at this point, because it makes me think of Matt and Chris, my friends that would talk about, the women that would come around the rink. But it's cool. I mean, like I played baseball up until high school. I basically gave up baseball to pursue acting. And I played basketball a little bit, but baseball was more like, this is something I could probably do for much, much longer than I did. So it's interesting to be cast as, players in football and basketball and hockey, and like all these sports that I don't really know all that much about, the intricacies of it, especially hockey. So yeah, it's been really interesting.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
always fun. I mean, heck,
Hmm.
I haven't explored the outside world either, as far as, outer space, but it's always interesting to see the different takes on aliens, because
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
green men is what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And then
They're all
also,
horny.
yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
that's the one common thread I find in these romance novels, that they
I
all want to
was
have
like,
sex. Yeah.
yeah, all that fun stuff. And then with the multiple, yeah, I mean, that's another episode altogether now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this year's Audiobook Lovin Series and help celebrate our 10th year anniversary. It's been so much fun chatting with you again.
It's been fun chatting with you too. It's always my
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yes, and thanks again for being the voice of the series
Oh,
with the intro
I'm
and
glad.
outro. It's always
You're
great.
very welcome.
Yeah, it doesn't get old at all
Oh, good.
when I'm editing.
I could change it up whenever you want me to. Just send me the text. Yeah.
Thanks. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We hope you enjoyed this chat as well as the entire series. Make sure to follow Steven on social media. He's gotten a lot better about posting things
Yes.
since the last time we talked to him. But no worries. I will include all that information on our landing page for this episode over at Viviana Enchantress of Books website. And until next time, happy listening.
Visit today's episode post to listen to sound clips of some of the books we discussed and enter the month-long giveaway. If you enjoyed the Audiobook Lovin podcast series and you want more, join the Audiobook Lovin podcast Patreon for early access to podcasts, exclusive content like the Would You Rather game and dinner party guests, and additional incentives such as bloopers, graphics, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobooklovin. Thank you for joining Viviana and her guests for this podcast, and we hope you tune in again as we continue to celebrate Audiobook Month. The Audiobook Lovin Series is hosted by Viviana, the Enchantress of Books. Please make sure to visit the main page linked within the post to learn more about the entire Audiobook Lovin Series and the enchanting author and narrator guests who have joined us over the years. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a review wherever you listened, and please follow us on social media platforms and subscribe to the Viviana, the Enchantress of Books newsletter. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin hopes you have enjoyed this program.